Hi, I'm Greg Euland with Reynolds & Reynolds, and this is Connected. Today I'm excited. I get to sit down with somebody that I've never met before, so this is the first time that we're actually getting to talk. I get to chat with Curtis Lewsey. Curtis is the founder of DealerCards and actually a best-selling author. His book is called Appreciation Marketing. He's also a popular speaker and trainer as well in the automotive space. So, Curtis, thanks so much for joining today.
That's an honor. Thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate it.
Of course. So, Curtis, I want to get into customer retention and referrals. That's a core piece of your message, I think. But before we get there, I was doing a little research before we got on the call and talking here. But I noticed that you were actually a college baseball player, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
And yep. if I dug deep enough and found the right facts, it looks like you actually hold a couple of records at Sacred Heart, both for hit by pitch, right? So in a season and in a career, you've been hit by more pitches than anyone else who played baseball at Sacred Heart University.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. You dug that up. Absolutely. Yeah, that is true. I just wouldn't get out of the way. I'll do whatever it takes to get on base.
Well, so I was curious. Did you end up writing thank you cards to those pitchers after they hit you?
I definitely did not do that. Man, I got hit in some spots that hurt for weeks at some points, but I remember, geez, so I graduated in 2005, and I remember that spring at one point, I think I was leading the nation in hit by pitches. And then there was somebody from LSU that I remember surpassed me, but they made it to the playoffs and they went deeper into the playoffs than we did. But I was 20 something hit by pitches that year.
That's crazy. Well, I'll tell you, those balls hurt a little bit worse when you're playing ball in Connecticut than they do when you're playing ball in Louisiana, right? Like when you take one in the shoulder in Connecticut in April, it's a little tough.
Oh, you're not kidding. You're not kidding. Absolutely.
No, that's fun though. And if I read right too, you won at least one state championship in high school, right?
We did in 1999. Yeah. Yep. We won a state championship for the state of New York.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Curtis, congrats on your records. Hopefully they stand up for a long time. But did want to get into, more about what you do professionally today as well. So as the founder of DealerCards, you've been doing this. We were chatting a little bit before recording. You've been doing this in some way since 2007. Is that right?
Yeah. I've been in this industry. Yep.
Okay. So I guess give the background on that. Tell the story. Everybody's got a story, how you got in and what you're trying to do. Always interested in that origin story, especially for somebody who's a founder who's kind of went through different iterations and is certainly hitting your stride and seeing some success.
Absolutely. So my first job right out of college, after I graduated from Sacred Heart University, I worked for Cintas Corporation, the uniform people. And I sold really sexy products like toilet paper and air fresheners and soaps, door to door, knocking at every door, every store, and every floor. And I went to work there because Robert Kiyosaki in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, said that his rich dad said, when you get out of the military, work for Xerox, not for the money, for the training. And so when I read that book, I was like, when I get out of school, I'm going to go to work for, and Cintas ended up being it. It was a multi-billion-dollar nationwide company that had a great playbook. And so I went to work there and just followed the blueprint, said this, if you do this, this, and this, you can expect to get this. And so financially, I put everything that in college, I was an RA on campus. I would play obviously Division I baseball. I was a full-time student. And then when I graduated, I put all my emphasis into just being the best I could be at Cintas. And in my third month, I was number one salesman in the entire country out of 1,250 reps. However, leading up to that, I was about ready to quit though, because, it just was getting burnt out from cold calling. And then that's when I talked to the number one sales guy, and he was working half the amount of hours we were, and he was making twice as much money. And I just thought, I was like thinking that the company just was just giving him leads. I was like, he was there longer, right. So therefore they're just feeding him leads. And it wasn't the case at all. He was building and create incredible relationships around him. And he taught me something. He's like, Curtis, you get a lead by what you do. You earn repeat and referral business by who you are and how you show up in people's lives. And so when he said that, it really kind of opened up my eyes. I was like, well, we're tied to Wall Street. I'm only as good as my last sale. So what are you talking about, like, as far as repeat and referral business? He goes, no, the guy that's driving the truck around your territory, those guys that are servicing the accounts that you sell, he goes, when they see a sign that says under new management or coming soon, that's a great lead for you. You want to be the first one that's in that door. You probably get that business. And so what I found out that when I started taking the things that he did in his territory and then put it in my territory, I started earning a lot more business because I realized one of the biggest competitive advantages in business, saying thank you, being appreciative, going that extra mile and letting people know that you are grateful for them and for the business that they're sending you. So I started doing that. And that's a combination of working hard and working smart is what landed me the #1 sales. It was called the Bullseye Award in September 2005. And I was very, very proud of that. And so that was kind of the foundation, and writing cards and I was taking pictures of like the businesses. And then I would say, appreciate the opportunity to earn your business. And that picture would be slapped on the front of the card. And there's certain things that you could do with the systems that you couldn't do with just a handwritten card. And it separated me from other people. So by doing that, I then left after a couple of years of Cintas and I started my own marketing agency.
Very fun. Very fun. No, that's great. So one thing that you mentioned that stood out was repeat and referral business. And I think in the auto retail industry, you almost need to separate those two things out, right? When you're selling a car, at the end of the day, as a salesperson, right, it is about making that customer feel like they have a relationship with you. But at the end of the day, it's a transaction. Right, it really is, and that person's going to make one transaction that may or may not include you every 3 to 7 years, right? Depending on the individual. That's a long time in between transactions, right? So when you think about repeat business, there's so many factors that go into that, including just brand retention, right? And how that changes over time. I mean, people driving, one brand today, in most cases, it's more probable they won't drive that brand when they trade that car in, right? So as a salesperson, the deck's kind of stacked against you. So I think of, and I'm curious for your perspective on this, because I think of repeat business as a different animal than referral business, right? Because referral business, you're talking about creating a network, right? Creating a network of people, because that one person is only going to come back at best 3 years later, right? 36 months from now. But they have friends and they have family and they have, maybe they have kids, maybe their spouse is in need for a car. So leveraging their network to get a referral, I think is much different than getting them to come back to you. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that and your perspective on that?
Well, coming from the space previously, I was working with a lot of real estate agents. We have probably 25, 30,000 real estate agents on board. And it's almost similar nature is that somebody buys a home, they're not going to purchase another home right away. Typically longer than they keep a house, longer than they would keep a car. And so that staying in touch and following up and staying top of mind is very, very important. And obviously a financial advisor or an insurance agent may be a little different because you kind of have your funds that is with them and there's more communication and stuff. In the automotive space, my business partner, he is what made us jump into this space and make sure that we design this hands-free solution is because he's owned many franchise stores. He sold some back years ago, and he has a couple independent stores now. And he's like, Curtis, the NADA stats, it shows that 86% of customers will buy their next vehicle from a competitor. They'll go someplace else. And so he goes, however, if we can at least stay in front of them, give it a shot, get an opportunity to be able to have a conversation, because just because they sell new Fords doesn't mean that they don't have something else on the lot, and give them an opportunity to at least have that conversation. May or may not purchase there, but if they had a good experience, you want to make sure that that you're appreciating them. See, there's two main reasons why somebody's not going to come back to do business with you again or refer you business. Number one is they might not just remember you. Obviously, a salesperson, there's a lot of turnover. So that's one of the main reasons why we actually work a lot with mostly owner principals and GMs that also might have an ownership stake, because they're investing in the future of their business. Because this is not something where it's like, hey, if I do this, this, and this, what do I see instantly? The instant part of it might be CSI, because if we get those cards out the next business day, the gourmet fudge brownies go out the next business day, those types of things is important to get in front of the survey. So that is important. We do have built-in opportunities like referral cards and service retention and those types of things as well. But that repeat and that referral business obviously is huge. And having that opportunity just be in front of them. Happy birthday. We appreciate you. Come on in for a free car wash on us, or happy car anniversary. They might not even remember that they bought the car a year or 2 or 3 years ago on that date. But by just simply putting those cards in the mail or having to be different, because most everything is all digital. We have some of the largest dealer groups in the country right now that are reaching out to us, and we're striking deals with many different rooftops. And what they're saying is they don't want the customer journey to end when that car hits the curb. When they drive off, if best is just emails and possible text messages. So one of the things that we like to say is be remembered, not deleted. Text messages get deleted, emails get deleted. And this is just something that separates you from the competition and goes above and beyond. It's like investing in blue sky as well, investing in your reputation, investing in that goodwill by putting this out there. Now, I will share this with you. What kind of helped make this happen was my wife. We bought 7 cars from my business partner. And during COVID, in middle of 2020, my wife happens to want to get a third row vehicle, and she's looking at this Toyota Highlander. And she's like, I just want to go take a look. And I had this pit in my stomach. I was like, buy all of our cars from Aladdin and his brothers. Like, why would we go to this? Like, feel like I'm cheating. I'm going to another dealership. And so anyway, I just want to look. I want to take it. So she goes and takes a look. I'm walking around my 3-year-old son out in the parking lot. She comes out, takes off her mask, smiles, and I bought it. I was like, but to her, it was different. I was like, well, after I started like unwinding this a little bit and talking to Aladdin's like, well, let's get to the bottom of this. He's like, let me ask you a question. Like, if Alicia had maybe birthday cards or car anniversary cards or had some of those types of things that were sent by me and my brothers, do you think that she might have given us an opportunity to find that car, or maybe even find it at the auction like we've done for other cars that you wanted to purchase? And she said, absolutely. And so, and when I talked to her about it, like, she's a very loyal person, but she didn't feel the connection. So I thought that was, really interesting. So that's a little backstory of kind of like where we're at right now, where we're at. And I think that especially the last few years, it's, you can buy any car that you want as long as it's that yellow, Ford Mustang, whatever. It's like whatever's on the lot is they have to sell because they didn't have a lot of inventory. Things are changing right now.
They are. Yeah. Yeah. So when you think about that connection, right, as a salesperson, we're trained and really skilled at making people feel comfortable with us, feel connected to us in a very short amount of time. Right. Yeah. Somebody walks into the dealership, you treat them well, you shake their hand, you look them in the eye, you make that connection, you find a way to connect with them so that customer feels like you're on their side, right? You're not just selling them a car. You want them to feel like they trust you, right? Like you're their friend, you're going to bat for them. And there's a lot of ways that we do that. But, it's an area where, successful sales reps in a dealership do that very well. They execute at a high level. And something that I think I'm hearing you say is, what gets more difficult is when that customer leaves, right?
That's right.
So handling the up and making that person feel comfortable, that's a different skill set than nurturing the up to try to stay in front of them. And historically, we've used, CRMs for this. We've used even direct mail companies for this. But the CRM is typically, the trigger. Right, it's got the dates in it, it's got the workflows in it, it's got the schedules in it, so that you can send things out in an automated way. What you see over time, obviously, is the use of email. And your phrase was a funny one because, it's so easy to either not read, just not even read something, right, and just delete it, just get rid of it. But again, that's one of your only direct communication channels. You have email, you have phone, you have text, and you have direct mail. Those are essentially your one-to-one communication channels. Everything else is going to be broad. So when when you look at keeping that connection going, an email can certainly, depending on how it's worded or framed up or even laid out, can feel very sterile, right? It can feel very, well, this is kind of what goes out on your birthday sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And what your company does is, handwritten cards, and those go out. So tell me a little bit about how the psychology of why that's different, right? Why is it that sending a physical piece of mail to someone on high quality cardstock or whatever you guys use, I mean, I assume it's a nice card. So, a physical piece of mail that at least, creates the impression that it's handwritten. What's the psychology of getting that versus getting an email that makes it more effective? Or why do you think it makes it more effective? I don't know.
Well, think about it. I mean, you have any kids, Greg?
Yeah, 2.
Yeah. So what's more emotional to you, having a print, in digital format or something, having something in digital or having something in print? Print is historically, it's more emotional. When you hit something in the mail, it lands differently. It hits differently than just having something that's put in the email or a text message or a social media post or something like that. Now, chapter 5, I'll go a little deeper. See, chapter 5 of our book is called Chocolate Frosted Dog Crap.
Okay.
And so
great.
yeah, exactly. And so I'll give you an example of what that is. It's sending out to try to get something in return when you're disguising it as appreciation and gratitude. So it's your birthday, and I say, hey, Greg, happy birthday. Hope everything's going great with you and and at Reynolds and your family. Hope everything's going great. And at the bottom, I put P.S. The greatest compliment in the world is a warm referral. Oh, by the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals. You're trying to get something. So from afar, it looks like a piece of chocolate cake with frosting on it until I bring it up to you and I set it in front of you. How long does it take you to realize that that is not chocolate cake? Instantly, right? It smells. It's crap. It goes in the garbage. It's what we call sending out propaganda. And so when most people, when they're taught, never miss out on the opportunity to ask for the business. Never miss out on the opportunity to ask for the referral. Well, in our world, in appreciation marketing, we're saying, don't just ask for it, deserve it. Do the necessary things and show up in their life on different life occasions and moments that is appreciating and recognizing them as a human being. Because most people that buy a car, let's face it, they feel loved on, they feel appreciated. This is so wonderful. They buy, they drive off the lot. And then the next time they're hearing from them is, bring your car into service. Or it's, we want to buy back your car in a couple years. You still own this, come on back in. Those are the types of things that makes you just realize that you're just a dollar sign and a decimal point. It's a transaction. So just by simply sending a birthday card, hey, bring this car in for a free car wash, or just simply leaving a happy birthday. Doing that cadence for a couple of years, loving on that customer for 2-3 years. Now, when it starts getting into the campaign of 4 and 5 years, you can start merging some buyback language into that. And you're kind of almost like earn that right to be able to ask for them to come on in and let's have a conversation. And you mentioned, and you can customize these cards, and they have, signatures and pictures on of the GM or the owner principal. So it makes it more personalized.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. So the content is important, right? What you're sending, what the words are matters, obviously. Yes. So don't ask for the business every time. That makes complete sense. But I go back to, why is it more impactful in physical form than digital form? I struggle to wrap my head around this, because it is, right? So when I get a card from someone, this time of year is a great example. It's holiday season. We all get kind of Christmas cards in the mail from family and friends. We send some out. Some have notes on them, some don't. But regardless, you get it in the mail, and there's still, as a grown adult, right? There's a little bit of excitement, right? You want to see the pictures that they sent, or you're just, it feels good to be remembered, right?
Yes, it does.
But why does it feel, I don't know, it feels more important almost when it's in the mail versus when it's sent via email? What is that? Like, do you have any thoughts on the psychology behind why it feels that way?
I just think because it's different. It's just kind of just taking old school, and we're just marrying it with new tech. Like back in the day when Joe Girard sold cars, he had he sold what 1,300 cars in a year or something like that, and he was in Guinness Book of World Records, the most greatest car salesman ever. And so what he did was he made people feel important. Mary Kay Ash, founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics, built $1 billion empire by teaching her reps that it sold makeup. Then she said everybody has this invincible sign around their neck that says "Make me feel important." And so by doing this, just by simply acknowledging them, one of my business partners, he sells private jets for a living, and he works for Jet Edge, and it's they have the largest fleet in the country for G4s, and they have tons of business, concierge and stuff. And he's been sending greeting cards now for over 15 years. And he says, Curtis, I used to handwrite everything. And then now he's like, because I don't like my handwriting font, I can actually choose one that looks like hand, and I can still have my signature. I can include my branding and stuff. But the point is this, he said, Curtis, I went to this benefit dinner in New York City, and there was a gentleman there that, has jets. I met him, and through his executive system, I got his birthday, and I sent him birthday cards for 7 years. And he goes, this past year, I got a phone call from him, and he's a billionaire. And he goes, Chris, he goes, I've been getting birthday cards for you for years. Thank you so much. That was really nice of you. And he goes, I only get 2 in the mail, one from you and one from my aunt. And my aunt just passed this past year. And he said, my aunt passed this past year. You're the only one that came in the mail this year. And he goes, I just wanted to call and say thank you. And little as you know, a couple of months later, gets an email saying, hey, I'm looking to trade in one of my jets. He goes, I would like you in on the bid. Just get on the bid. He didn't do it. Obviously, he was doing it to stay in touch. He was top of mind. He knew who he was. And when the time came, he ended up getting 2 jets from him. Traded in one, got 2 jets. And he goes, when you build a habit of doing this in different areas of your life, it's like the old saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And he goes, so I just sent a card to the bus driver of my son. He goes, I got in the habit of doing this every single day. And he goes, just by thanking him for taking him to school and being safe, each and every day. The bus driver gets off the bus, and he's like, in 15 years, I've never been thanked. And he had a tear in his eye, gave him a big hug. And he was like, that meant even more to me than landing this huge jet deal from this multi-billionaire. And he goes, Fo, it's just when you do it, you start realizing that you never want to stop. And it's a really good feeling. It makes you feel really good. You're investing in them. So most of the time when you sell a car, they're not really investing back into that customer. They're just looking for the cost per acquisition. What's this, that? Well, long term, you're going to decrease the cost per acquisition because you will increase your repeat, and you will increase your referral business just by showing that you care.
Yeah. So I want to dig into a little bit. That makes a lot of sense, Curtis. Appreciate it. But I want to dig into a little bit too, because I think, in my experience at least, a part of this and a part of that feeling of somebody caring about you comes from that true handwritten note, right? Like you can tell, for the most part, you can tell when somebody's taken a pen and sat down and written something, even if it's a couple sentences, right? Based on kind of the handwriting and the signature and even the stroke marks of the pen. And that, even if it's just a note at the bottom of a card, right? So you send them a happy birthday card and it just says, hey, thinking of you, happy birthday, right? It could be that simple. But the idea that someone actually spent the time to put a pen in their hand and write the note makes it feel that much more important, I think. And you can do that via email too. I'm not in any way downplaying email. I do think that you can accomplish that with a thoughtful note in email, especially for some of those instances where it might not make sense for a letter or whatever. But I do think that email can be effective. But there's something about seeing somebody and knowing that somebody took the time to write something to you. So scaling that obviously has its limits. We can all only write so many notes and even sign so many things. It all takes time, which I think, and I don't want to make too many assumptions, so I'll let you kind of explain it. But I think that scaling is where kind of you've developed a company around, is being able to scale that. So I am curious, though, does that automation in any way take away from the reaction of the receiver of a card that may appear handwritten, but it's not? Do they know that? How does all that play in?
Well, first thing I want to say is that for people that are handwriting their notes and
Yeah.
doing it consistently, I say never, don't stop. You're top 1%. In this industry, top one half of 1%, because very, very few actually do it. And the ones that actually do it, when they come across our services and they see the full spectrum of what we do and um, how like specific we can be and how personalized and customized it can be, they absolutely go with us. And like there'll be a lot of different opportunities to be able to still do what they're currently doing right now, for sure. It's at scale is definitely one of the things that we do best, for sure, because we build out an entire campaign. We've had our programmers are just unbelievable. And like we actually have the ability for people, if they like their own handwriting, because what I found is that probably about a third of the people we work with, they don't like their handwriting font at all. It's part of the main reasons why they
Sure.
actually don't even send cards, is because they don't like their handwriting. So they can pick one that they want, a different font. We have actually fonts in there. The one thing that people could do is fill out this whole form, and they actually fill it out 5 times. So we use like AI. So if you happen to write the word tooth, let's say, O, and when you write a letter, it's slight variations, right? So
Sure.
it's a little off. So now we take every other character and you put it in there. It is unbelievable. Like I'm right now is the holidays and we're pumping out cards. Oh, because one of the things that makes us unique is we're not a white label like we're not built on another platform. We wrote this from scratch. We have our own buildings. We also have all of our own equipment in house. So we're flexible, we're nimble, based on different opportunities. But people can use their own handwriting. You'll have their own signatures on there. You can include a headshot to make it a little bit more personal on the inside of the card, which looks really nice as well. People put tracking numbers in there so they know it's coming from the card. You can insert a QR code so they can scan it, go right to the service department, or go and book their service. Scan it to leave a 5-star review. Scan it to take a picture of their gourmet fudge brownies that they're eating and post it on social media. So there's a lot of different opportunities. And what makes our program really powerful right off the bat is that because we integrate with Reynolds, it's in real time. So the very next day, a card with a box of brownies goes out, and we have dynamic merge field. So it can say, congratulations on your 2024 Ford F-150, so
Yeah.
like, it would say that right in the inside of the card. All of us here wish want to thank you so much for your business. It really means the world to us. Have a couple of gourmet fudge brownies on us.
Yeah.
That going in, it gets ahead of the survey. And what I've talked to about, interviewed some of the GMs that are using our services, is it's like, it gives us an opportunity to get in front of any of these heat cases. That is
Sure.
really powerful to us, and the thanks that I get from text message and emails when you feed somebody, immediately it's a really good thing. And then coming after that, they don't expect to have a birthday card. And when they do, they're grateful for it, and it's the people that are ungrateful. I mean, I haven't really come across that so much. People say, "Oh," and then just toss it away. It's the thought that counts. It's meaningful. Now, if
Sure.
somebody took a card, yes, and wrote it, then, that would be that is very powerful. And I would say absolutely don't stop doing it. And that's what we teach the salespeople to do also. Now, this is at scale from the owner, principal, GM level, people that really have like an ownership stake and want to invest in future proofing their business, right? However, when I do presentations and I train salespeople, like I'll give you an example. I use Google Alerts. So when I meet an influential person, I put Google Alerts in. And I had a Google Alert this past summer from a GM that bought a restaurant. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's cool. And it was one of his favorite restaurants. They support it. The dealership supports it big time in the area. And so I sent him a card saying, congratulations. And when I met him last week, he's like, Curtis, it was your cadence. It was you dripping on me. It was those cards that came in that meant a lot. And I want to roll with you and I want to do this. I really, really like what you're doing. Now he's an owner, operator.
Yeah.
And it was really cool hearing from that. And I told him, I was like, thank you so much. Like, I put my heart and soul into this business and it means a lot. He's like, that's really cool. And so hearing it from somebody like that, who's running a 500 car a month, operation, it was pretty cool to see and hear.
Yeah, that's great. That is really cool. Well, and being able to demonstrate it in that way, right? Where you're reaching out and then they see that and they say, I want that for my customers because it made them feel a certain way. So that's very cool. So maybe it helps for me at least to think about sort of this follow-up and I guess written follow-up in three types, right? Or maybe stages or layers. You have your standard written follow-up that's a typed out letter or, a postcard or something that's a reminder or not even a reminder, just an acknowledgement of appreciation or happy birthday or whatever the example is. And it doesn't look like handwriting, but it's something that you're sending. So you still have that thought that counts, right?
Yes.
And then you have your follow-up that you send out that looks handwritten but isn't handwritten, right? And then you have your actual handwritten. So maybe those are like three tiers. And where I'm curious if you've seen or have a perspective on is so that one in the middle is, it makes scale so much easier. It gets done on time. There's never an issue with I didn't have time today, right? It's consistent, which is the real benefit, it seems like. But I wonder if there's potentially any even negative impact to having something. Could it feel disingenuous, I guess? Like you're trying to, as the receiver, right? You're trying to trick me into thinking that you actually wrote this when I know that you didn't write this. If it doesn't look handwritten, would it be more impactful just as a typed out type of piece or not having the handwriting. And maybe I'm way off base. It could be completely out there. But I'm curious if you have seen anything or experienced anything with, how people react to these different types of pieces that they would get in the mail.
Well, I think that for being in this industry now since 2007, so I'm always like 16, I'm going on 17 years, and there's times that I will send myself a card and I will handwrite it and I will put it in the envelope and I will send it out. Like, there's times that I'll, walk over to the print shop, have it printed and leave it blank and handwrite it. Heck, when I'm writing letters to GMs, I have the examples of the follow-up campaign. Then I have a letter that I write a little bit of something in there and I laminate that with the pricing sheet on the back, and we give away samples and brownies for free to people that request it on our website. And so we send it out to them so they can see what it's all about. The biggest thing, the number one reason why people get started with us is really out of guilt because they know that they should be doing this stuff and they're not. And if they start, they stop. They start, they stop. And everybody at a dealership has a ton of different responsibilities. They're all spinning a bunch of plates. And most people I want to make sure that they do feel appreciated. And if somebody gets a birthday card in the mail, and it's from them with their signature on it, no matter what font it is, how many other birthday cards do you think they got in the mail?
Yeah.
Probably. And there's very few people that look at that and say, oh, I'm just going to throw in the garbage. They don't really people are they're doing that. They're spending money that came in the mail. They're spending money. It has a real first class stamp on it. This is not a bulk metered type of a deal or a postcard, which feels less personal. In an envelope, they have to peel it open. It's like a little present. And so, especially when you come above and beyond, and like for that gentleman I talked to you about just recently, I even put as an example card, I was like, what about on the top half of the card, say, bring this card in for a free appetizer or a drink of choice for your birthday? What dealership doesn't support local businesses around the area? So if they have an employee's husband owns a food cart or a food truck or something like this, you can incorporate something like that and, have them redeemed. We teach. There's a lot of different things that you can do, is what I'm saying. And it's customizable. So if somebody wants to say, hey, I want to test this or I want to test that, no problem. We can whip up the card or design. He can build it up, put it in there like at a customer appreciation day. I didn't know how it was going to go. We had a Ford Lincoln store and also a Hyundai Genesis store. They said, yeah, well, let's do that. So we built it into the cadence. So it goes out because in early April. And they said, we don't know how it's going to go, but we'll have some hot dog stand and a couple of other things here. And they had a whole bunch of people that showed up in the middle of a day. He's like, this is awesome, and they felt really good about it. And so they're going to do it again next year. So, just showing you that it actually does work. And people are bringing the cards in for the car wash. People are, what was the other one that they did? There was a couple of different things that they're just giving to give, like without just trying to ask for something in return. But like I said, like I guess there's a lot of different ways that people think about it. I feel like if it gets done and I have something, it does land with a little bit of warm and fuzzy, but also the message matters.
You're right.
If you're always trying to get something, how does it make you feel, Greg, when you get a holiday card and you open it up and coupons fall or business cards fall out of it? It's like, are they really trying to wish you a happy holidays or trying to get something from you?
Right.
So that's the whole kind of premise of appreciation marketing, is sending out without expectation of getting something in return. But when you do that consistently over and over again, the goodwill that it builds far exceeds any of the one or two people here or there that say, I'm not grateful for this birthday card.
Yeah. No, that's a good perspective. That's really good. So, Curtis, as somebody that writes thank yous basically as a living, right? I'm very, very curious, and this may not even have an answer, but do you have a favorite pen that you use? Like, are you kind of a pen snob? Do you have?
I'm not a pen snob. Look, I have a Bic, a blue Bic right here. I mean, now I definitely have some fancy ones that are laying around. I got the Mont Blancs and the different things that were given to me as gifts. And no, I'm not the one that would go out there and buy the fancy pen, but I'm more of a simple person.
All right, that's fair. I was just curious, if there's anything that you liked writing with or anything. But before we hop off, I'm hoping to learn a little bit too, and we don't have to go too in the weeds, but having you on, I want to at least ask what the process was like for you. And this is going to go back a little ways, but what the process was like for you to write a book. Right. So obviously there's a lot of reasons to do it. Sharing, marketing's another reason, right? You still have it. You still held up a copy today, right? And it gets your idea of appreciation marketing across, and it's a longer form piece, and you can leverage it in a lot of different ways. But writing a book, publishing a book, coming up with the content, laying it out in a way that's organized, working. I don't know if you worked with a publisher or you self-published, but maybe just at a high level, what was that process like for you? And also, what was the driver? Was it? And I'm not trying to sound harsh, but like, was it a marketing piece, right? Or which is perfectly, that's a great reason to do a book. Or were there other drivers behind it? So just curious if you could unpack that for me a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So my business partner and I, his name is Tommy Wyatt, and he was actually a former Best of Connecticut sports editor of a newspaper in Newtown, Connecticut, and so. Him and I were building.
Did he write a story? Did he write a story about you getting hit by baseballs?
I don't even know. No, it's fun. It's funny though, because he definitely knows that. He met me. Well, we met when I was in college, and he was a mentor of mine, and we ended up being in business together. And then we found ourselves on stages all around the United States and Canada and stuff. And so when we were speaking and training, we were talking a lot about kind of the law of attraction as it pertains to business. Sending out, and then we ended up coining it as and trademarked the term appreciation marketing. So back in 2008, when we bought the domain name and we started going down this kind of path, there was nothing, even believe it or not, on the internet that was appreciation marketing in together. It was like marketing with appreciation, or this it was nothing even out there. So it was one of those things where we almost had to kind of carve it out ourselves. And when we went out there and was speaking and training and stuff, and we had so many stories, and there was also stories of what not to do. And so we built a lot of stories in there of also what not to do. It makes you laugh. And it's on Audible, and people can go to appreciationmarketing.com/audiobook for free download as well. There's a free download. But
yeah, that's great.
And so the process was we didn't even do it to we definitely didn't do it to make money. We felt like almost had an obligation, and I kind of love the idea of using it as an extended business card and helping us get into places that might otherwise be hard to either get on stages or something. So I started writing the book, and we put together a bunch of different bullet points. I was like, oh, this would be a great topic. This is great. And then we reworked it. And then all of a sudden he's like, is this what you were trying to do? He's much more skilled writer than I am. And so I started writing and had a bunch of ideas, and then he started writing together, and they rewrote some of the stuff that I wrote. And I was like, okay, let's knock this thing out. And then we let it sit for a while, and then picked it back up, made a few edits. And then It's been awesome because I mean, when I'm on stages at real estate conferences or keynoting or something, that's like when people sign up with our service, I let them walk away with a copy of the book and a gourmet fudge brownie, and it's like, it's nice little takeaway. And it helps us because when you have the psychology and the philosophy that people read it and say, you know what? Yes, I should be doing this. It just makes sense. Then we have a system to help execute and the principles and the philosophies that we teach to make sure that it actually gets done. And then with Reynolds, which is awesome, and your team has been wonderful to work with, is it makes it hands free. And so when a finance manager marks a deal sold, the very next day, a box of brownies and a card goes in the mail, and it's very affordable and to be able to do so.
Yeah. No, I love that you wrote the book. I really do. I think it's a very effective way, and to your point, it has a lot of different use cases. And I like it. I really do. I like it as a marketing piece, but also a takeaway, a guidebook, documentation on how to do these things. Really codifying what you're talking about, right? And there's so many benefits. There's actually a dealer. I was looking over here. I thought I had a copy over here, but he's a dealer in Toledo, Ohio. His name's Steve Taylor, and I haven't gotten the chance to talk to him, but I've read his book. He wrote a book called Tailor Made, and it's basically a guide to help consumers know how to buy a car. Wow. And it was a really fascinating read because then, obviously he promoted it, but he used that book as at the end of the day, it's a marketing piece, right? And I don't want to put words into his mouth. Again, I haven't talked to him, but from my perspective, it's a very effective marketing piece, I should say, because he went out to consumers and said, look, this is what you need to know about buying a car. We're a transparent organization. We're going to get you the best vehicle that we can. We're going to help you line up financing. Like, these are the pieces to the puzzle. And the group has been very successful in Toledo. So it's just another example of a way to leverage a book or any long form piece of content, really, to help people, to bring people to you, to be a magnet, right? And I love that you've done it. I think it's a very cool idea. I'll have to get a copy. I apologize, I have not read the book yet. I get the gist. I kind of read the the basics, but I appreciate that you did it, that you took the time to do it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I'm assuming a year probably worth of work, or how long did it take you?
Yeah, we were collecting our notes for 18 months and then we knocked it out in a couple of weeks. But like it makes it a lot easier when you have all the bullet points and you kind of frame it all out. That was a big part of us being able to knock it out quicker. And because it's a lot of stories too, stories are very powerful. So we put a lot of stories in there, and obviously I'll send it to you for free. And anybody who goes to DealerCards.com, I send out free samples, brownies, and I send the book for free to any owners, principals, GMs, or something that want to request any information. I put in this beautiful big DealerCards box, and we ship it on out. And usually sending that helps us get that call, so they're very, very busy. So we'd like to try to, take that step forward and let them see it and put their hands on it and see what it looks like.
That's great. Well, Curtis, it's been, we kind of went all over the place, so sorry we didn't have a linear conversation, but it was fun to chat and get to know you a little bit and learn, about what you do. Anything we haven't talked about that we should, anything you want to touch on before we hop out of here?
No, man, I really enjoyed this. That's some of the best podcasts that I do are the ones that are, just don't necessarily have a whole framework. I like bouncing around, and you caught me off guard. I thought it was hilarious that you did some research on Sacred Heart and these 5 pitches. That's fine. I've never had anybody, bring that up.
Well, now everybody knows. All right. Well, Curtis Lewsey, founder of DealerCards, thanks again for joining me, and have a great day today.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. It was fun to sit down with Curtis Lewsey, founder of DealerCards, best-selling author, and all-time leader in hits by pitch at Sacred Heart University. Just if you take anything away from that episode, which is what I'm taking away, is remember to say thank you. Everybody around you needs to hear it, and it has a big impact on them and also you. So thanks so much for watching today, and don't forget, before we hop off, you can watch or listen to all episodes of Connected on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. And make sure to hit subscribe so you're notified every other week when new episodes are released. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.